Welcome back to the deep dive. We are really glad you're here with us today. We've got a stack of notes here that at first glance might look a little, well, a little legalistic.
Yeah. We're looking at AWS, Cloud Practitioner standards, security responsibility frameworks.
Compliance.
It definitely sounds like the vegetables of the cloud world. It's not the flashy AI stuff or the quantum computing headlines.
Yeah.
It's frameworks. It's rules.
Yeah.
Governance.
Exactly. It feels like homework. But here's the hook, and this is why we're doing this deep dive. If you get this wrong, you don't just get a bad grade.
No.
You get hacked, or you get sued. Or you wind up with a cloud bill that, it could bankrupt your entire department because you didn't understand the rules of the road.
High-stakes homework. That is the best way to put it.
So our mission today is to demystify this whole who does what thing in the cloud ecosystem. We're going to unpack the shared responsibility model, which is basically like the constitution of the cloud.
It really is.
And then we'll look at the specific tools, things like AWS Artifact, Config, and the License Manager that keep a business legal, secure, and organized.
And this is so crucial because there's this massive misconception I see all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Companies move to the cloud and they think, great, I'm in the cloud now. Amazon has an army of security guards. I can just put my data there, dust off my hands, and walk away.
Right. I'm behind the castle walls, so I'm safe. It's that set it and forget it mentality.
Exactly. But looking at these source notes, the reality is just screaming in neon lights.
Yeah.
The cloud is not a daycare.
Huh.
It is a partnership.
Yeah.
And if you don't know which part of that partnership is yours, you are basically leaving your front door wide open while you're relying on the landlord to guard the main gate.
I love that analogy. So let's unpack this partnership.
Yeah.
The core concept here is the shared responsibilities model, or SRM.
Yep.
The notes break this down into a really simple, punchy dichotomy. Security of the cloud versus security in the cloud.
It's the fundamental law of the land in AWS. If you remember nothing else from this deep dive, remember that distinction.
Okay, let's start with security of the cloud. That's Amazon's side of the fence, right?
Correct. Think of AWS as the landlord of a massive high-tech apartment complex.
Okay.
They are responsible for the building itself. They have to make sure the foundation doesn't crack. They ensure the roof doesn't leak. They make sure the external locks on the main building work and that the power stays on.
So we're talking about the physical infrastructure.
Yes, the concrete, the power grids, the cooling systems, the massive data centers scattered all around the globe. But it goes deeper than just bricks and mortar.
How so?
They are also responsible for the virtualization layer.
The software that actually makes the cloud? The cloud.
Right. The hypervisor. The tech that separates your virtual server from the customer next door who's running on the same physical hardware. AWS guarantees that the wall between you and them holds.
So they secure the regions, the availability zones, all that.
All of it. The edge locations.
So if a meteor hits an AWS data center in Northern Virginia, or if some spy tries to Mission Impossible their way into the server room to steal a hard drive, that is Amazon's problem.
Precisely. That is security of the cloud. They ensure the lights stay on and the walls stay up.
Okay, so they own the building, but that leaves the customer with security in the cloud. And going back to your apartment analogy, this is what happens once I step inside my own unit.
Exactly. Once you open that door and step inside your virtual apartment, it is your domain and your responsibility. If you leave your digital window open, or if you invite a thief inside for dinner, AWS cannot and will not stop you.
That is a terrifying thought. The notes list some specific responsibilities here for the customer. It says data, platform, operating systems, networking configuration.
Let's break that down because operating systems catches so many people off guard.
Right.
If you spin up a standard EC2 instance, which is just a virtual server, AWS gives you the hardware. But you are the one installing Windows or Linux.
So if I install a version of Windows from, 2012 that has 1,000 known security holes and I never patch it,
then you get hacked. And Amazon isn't going to swoop in and force update your server for you.
Okay.
In that model, you own the OS. You own the patching schedule. You own the firewall configuration.
The notes also mention client-side data encryption and server-side encryption.
Right. If you store sensitive customer data credit card numbers, health records in plain text, and someone steals it, you can't blame the landlord. You didn't lock your safe.
And this brings us to Identity and Access Management, or IAM. This is listed under the customer side, and it feels like the biggest friction point.
It is the most common failure point, without a doubt. AWS provides the service IAM, which is like the lock on your front door.
The very good lock.
It's a very high-quality lock.
Right.
But you represent the person holding the keys. You decide who gets a key.
So I decide if I'm giving a master key to every single intern who walks in the door.
Exactly. Or if you're requiring people to use two keys to get in, which is multi-factor authentication, or MFA, if you hand out keys to the wrong people, or if you don't rotate them, or if you write the password on a sticky note, that is a failure of security in the cloud.
So Amazon provides the vault, but you set the combination.
That's it. And if you set the combination to 1, 2, 3, 4, that's on you.
Now here is where it gets really interesting and where the aha moment usually hits for people. The notes explain that this line between my job and Amazon's job isn't a solid wall. It moves, it shifts depending on which service model you actually choose to use.
This is the nuance that separates the pros from the amateurs. You have to understand the three tiers: IHANTS, PaaS, and SaaS.
Infrastructure, platform, and software as a service.
Yep.
Let's walk through that gradient because this dictates how much work you have to do on the weekend. The notes use the example of Windows and SQL for infrastructure as a service, or IaaS.
Right. This is what we were just talking about. In IaaS, you're essentially renting the raw metal, virtually speaking.
Total flexibility.
Maximum flexibility. You can install whatever weird software you want, but you have maximum burden. You have to patch Windows. You have to update SQL. You have to configure the network ports. The line of responsibility is very far toward the customer.
Okay, now let's slide that responsibility slider over to Platform as a Service, or PaaS. The example here is Amazon Aurora, their managed database engine.
In this scenario, you're effectively saying to Amazon, look, I don't want to be a database administrator. I just want a database.
Right.
So AWS takes over the operating system. They handle the patching. They handle the backups. Aurora even has a serverless mode where you don't even see the instances.
So the line of responsibility has moved. I'm doing less grunt work.
Exactly. You're trading control for convenience. You are handing off the security of the operating system to AWS. You just worry about your data in your code.
And finally, we have SaaS, software as a service. The notes point to software bought from the AWS marketplace as the example here.
This is the far end of the spectrum. If you buy a SaaS solution, you aren't patching anything. You aren't managing servers. You are just a user logging in.
So the vendor handles everything.
The vendor handles almost everything except your login credentials and your data governance.
So the takeaway here isn't just know the model, it's choose your model wisely.
That is a brilliant insight. If you're a small startup and you don't have a security team to manage OS patches 24/7, maybe don't use a HAS.
Right.
Use PaaS.
Ah.
Offload that risk to Amazon. Don't sign up for responsibilities you aren't staffed to handle.
Which segues perfectly into the next major chunk of our source material.
Governance.
Governance. The word that usually makes people's eyes glaze over.
It does sound a bit bureaucratic, but the definition in the notes is actually pretty active. It calls governance an ongoing process that evolves with business needs and regulation.
Ongoing is the key word there. A lot of people treat governance like a setup wizard. Okay, I set my password policies, I configured the firewall, I'm done. Time to launch. And that's not it.
No. Governance is how you ensure that the reality of your cloud environment actually matches the rules you set in your head day after day.
It's maintenance.
It's parenting. It's parenting your infrastructure.
I like that. The notes list several key mechanisms for this parenting. We've already touched on IAM managing permissions and MFA, but then it lists monitoring and logging tools. CloudTrail, CloudWatch, and GuardDuty. I feel like these three get confused constantly.
Oh, all the time.
Can we distinguish them?
Easily. Think of CloudTrail as your forensic ledger. It logs every single API call.
Everyone.
Everyone. If a resource disappears or a setting changes or a database gets deleted, CloudTrail tells you who did it and when. It's the CCTV recording of your account.
Okay, so CloudTrail is who did what? What is CloudWatch?
CloudWatch is about performance and operational health. Is the server running hot? Is the disk full? Is the application crashing? It watches the metrics. It's the dashboard gauges in your car.
And GuardDuty?
GuardDuty is your intelligence sentry. It uses machine learning to look for threats. It's not just logging, it's analyzing. Okay.
It says, hey, why is this server suddenly sending huge amounts of data to a known hacking group's IP address? It detects anomalies that a human would miss.
So you need all three. You need the camera, CloudTrail, the dashboard, CloudWatch, and the security guard, GuardDuty.
You can't govern without visibility. If you don't have these turned on, you are flying blind. You won't know you've been breached until it's way, way too late.
Look at visibility. I want to double-click on one specific item in the governance list here. Tagging.
Oh, tagging.
The notes say tagging is for automation, tracking, and management. To me, tagging sounds like file organization, like putting sticky notes on things.
Hmm.
Why is it listed as a critical security and governance feature?
This is one of my favorite topics because it seems so small, but it's so critical.
Okay.
In a physical data center, you know which server belongs to the finance department because it has a label on it or it's in a specific rack.
Hmm.
In the cloud, you can spin up 1,000 servers in a minute.
If you don't tag them with department, finance, or environment, production, you have no idea what they are.
It's just digital noise.
It's zombie infrastructure, and if you don't know what a server is, you can't secure it. You don't know who to call if it starts acting up. You can't apply the right backup policy. And worst of all, you can't delete it when you're done because you're afraid you might break something important.
It just sits there.
It's there costing money and opening security holes.
So tagging is essentially the inventory system for your digital warehouse.
It is the nervous system of governance. Without tags, automation is impossible. You can't say back up all production servers if you don't know which ones are production.
That brings us to the external side of governance. The internal stuff, how we manage ourselves, is governance. The external pressure is compliance. The notes call this the alphabet soup of standards.
And it is a thick soup. Compliance is when an outside body, a government, an industry regulator, a trade association says, here are the rules you must follow if you want to do business.
And the notes break this down by geography, which I found fascinating. I didn't realize how much your physical location dictates your digital architecture.
It's huge. Data sovereignty is the issue of our time. Where does the data live? Whose laws apply to it?
Let's run through the map here from the notes. In North America, we have the classics.
iPay for healthcare protecting patient data, PCI DSS for anyone taking credit cards, and FedRAMP if you want to sell to the U.S. government.
Then you hop over the Atlantic to Europe and you hit the wall of GDPR.
The General Data Protection Regulation. I mean, that regulation changed the internet. It basically says that European citizens own their data, and you have to protect it with specific standards, regardless of where your company is headquartered.
And that's the kicker, right? You could be a small company in Ohio, but if you have customers in Paris, you need to worry about GDPR.
Absolutely. You might need to keep their data on servers physically located in Europe to stay compliant.
And it just keeps going. The notes mention LGPD in Latin America, specifically Brazil. Asia Pacific has Australia's ARPA and Japan's FISC. Even the Middle East and Africa are developing strict cloud adoption policies, like in the UAE.
It's a global patchwork, and then you layer industry on top of geography.
Yeah.
Financial services need one thing, healthcare needs another, retail needs another.
It feels overwhelming.
It is designed to be rigorous
Yeah.
because the data matters.
So the million-dollar question, and I mean literally considering the fines if you mess this up, is how do you prove you're doing it right? You can't just tell the auditor, trust me, bro, we're secure.
No, trust me, doesn't work in a court of law.
Huh.
You need evidence. You need documentation. And this is where the AWS tool belt comes in.
Right.
The notes lists a suite of tools specifically designed to solve this evidence problem.
Let's go through the tool belt. First up is the AWS Compliance Center.
Think of that as your library.
Yeah.
That's where you go to read up on what the regulations actually say and how AWS approaches them.
Hi.
It's your research hub.
Then we have a tool that the notes actually give an action item for. It says, look through AWS Artifact. What is Artifact?
AWS Artifact is your filing cabinet for official documents.
Huh.
Let's say an auditor comes to your office and asks, how do we know the data center where our servers live is physically secure? We can't go inspect it. Amazon won't let us in.
Right. I assume Amazon isn't giving tours of the server farms to just anyone.
Exactly. So you go to AWS Artifact and you download Amazon's ISO 27001 certification. You download their SOC reports. These are third-party audit reports that prove AWS is doing their job. You hand those to your auditor, and that checks the box for security of the cloud.
So Artifact is where I get Amazon's report card to show my teacher.
Perfect analogy. It's also where you sign legal agreements, like the BAA, the Business Associate Agreement, if you're dealing with high-pod data.
Okay, so that proves Amazon is safe. How do I prove I am safe? The notes mention AWS Security Hub and AWS Config.
These two work hand in hand. AWS Config is the watcher. It records the state of your resources. Remember we talked about encryption. You can set a rule in config that says all hard drives must be encrypted.
And if someone creates an unencrypted drive?
Config flags it immediately. It spots the violation.
And Security Hub?
Security Hub aggregates all those alerts from config, from guard duty, from everything else. It gives you a dashboard, a single pane of glass where you can see your compliance score. It turns, I think we're secure, into we are 92% compliant with PCI standards,
And for the actual audit process itself, there's AWS Audit Manager.
which is a lifesaver.
Uh-huh.
Instead of spending 2 weeks taking screenshots of settings to prove you're compliant, Audit Manager automates the evidence collection. It runs in the background, gathering the proof so you don't have to scramble when the audit begins.
I want to pivot to one last tool in the notes because it addresses a very specific kind of compliance that hits the wallet directly, the License Manager.
Ah, yes. Software licensing, the hidden silent killer of IT budgets.
The notes say this helps reduce the risk of noncompliance. Why is licensing so tricky in the cloud?
It's the elasticity. In the old days, you bought a physical server, you bought a Windows license, you stuck the sticker on the box. Done.
Yeah.
In the cloud, you might spin up 50 servers for a few hours to run a batch job, then delete them. Did you have 50 licenses for that?
Oh, I see. I probably didn't.
If your software contract says you only own 10 licenses and you spin up 50 instances, you are technically in violation.
Right.
And software vendors audit this. They will send you a bill for the true-up, and that bill can be astronomical.
So AWS License Manager tracks this for you.
It does. It allows you to define rules based on your contracts. I have hundreds SQL Server licenses. And here's the feature I love, mentioned in the notes: hard and soft limits.
Explain those.
A soft limit is a polite tap on the shoulder. Hey, you just used your 101st license. Just letting you know.
And a hard limit.
A hard limit is a brick wall. It physically prevents you from launching that 101st instance. It tells the developer, no, we don't have a license for this.
It stops you from breaking the law.
It stopped you from accidentally spending money you don't have. It forces you to comply with your own contracts.
And the notes mention BYOL, bring your own license.
Right. If you already spent $1 million on Oracle licenses for your on-premise data center, License Manager helps you track them as you migrate them to the cloud, so you don't have to buy them twice.
It really seems like the unsung hero of the governance suite. It's not about hackers, it's about lawyers and accountants.
Which, let's be honest, can be just as scary as hackers.
Right.
Maybe scarier.
Fair point. So let's zoom out. We've gone from the conceptual, the shared responsibility model, down to the tools like Artifact and Config. What's the big picture here for our listener?
The big picture is maturity. When you start in the cloud, you're just happy to get a server running. That's the hello world phase. But true cloud competence, true literacy, is understanding that building the infrastructure is only half the job.
The other half is keeping it legal, secure, and organized.
It's the difference between building a treehouse and building a skyscraper. A treehouse is fun. You just nail some boards together.
Yeah.
A skyscraper needs blueprints, permits, fire exits, safety inspections, and a maintenance crew.
And the shared responsibility model is your blueprint.
Exactly. If you ignore the security in the cloud part, you are building a skyscraper without locks on the doors. You're building a bank vault with cardboard walls.
The source notes ended with those specific action items. Look through AWS Artifact and look through License Manager.
I would echo that strongly. Don't just read about it. Log into your console. Find Artifact. Read an audit report. It makes this abstract stuff very real when you see the actual PDF that proves Amazon's security. See what agreements are sitting there waiting for you.
So here is a thought for everyone listening to chew on. Governance isn't static, it evolves. So if you were to audit your own cloud environment today, right now, this afternoon, would you find a gap in your security in the cloud?
That is the question to ask. Are you assuming Amazon is doing something that is actually your job?
A terrifying thought to end on, but a necessary one. Thanks for helping us unpack all the legalese.
Always a pleasure. Stay secure out there.
And thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.